Well, welcome to another Backyard Professor videos. I'm just approaching Blacktail, just driving down into the canyon. Boy, you can see the sunrise. Ooh, there's the sun. Bright sun. This is a beautiful little resort area here in Idaho. I'm going to do my filming here today. I've got some very interesting things to tell you about the Book of Mormon this morning. That they say early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. We'll see. Cowabunga, it's cold this morning. Woo! I'm up too early. Welcome to the Backyard Professor videos. I'm Kerry Schertz, the Backyard Professor. Holy cow, it's cold. Hey, I've been exploring this theme that the Book of Mormon has no veracity to it, that it's just a made-up tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing, to quote one of my very favorite poets, Shakespeare. But I think Donald W. Perry, one of the International Dead Sea Scroll team scholars out of BYU, he has a very interesting way of looking at the Book of Mormon. Kind of like when you look into a microscope, you see different perspectives. You see things in a different light, in a different focus. So instead of doing an overall sort of a grand big picture of the Book of Mormon and its themes, Donald Perry has put it under the microscope, so to speak, and discussed some of the internal aspects of it that I believe are remarkably interesting. Now, I'm probably going to do this in a series of 3, maybe 4, because the details are so good, are so interesting, that I want to be sure to give you the full impact. And in an 8-minute video, you just can't put it all together. But his selection is the internal consistency of the Book of Mormon and the integrity of the Book of Mormon. It's in Susan Easton Black's book, Expressions of Faith, Testimonies of Latter-day Saint Scholars. It was published by Deseret Book in 1996. So if I'm going to pull my hands out of my pocket, I'm going to go sit back in the truck and get warm. I don't know if you guys are worth this much effort. Whew, Backyard Professor freezing his Watusi off, man. This is Expressions of Faith by Susan Easton Black. She's a wonderful editor and LDS scholar in her own right. And I'm going to do on page 10, 210. I'm going to start on page 210. Ooh, if I get so cold I can't talk, I'm going to look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, aren't I? What a beautiful sunrise, though. I've got the lake over here to me. It's really quite beautiful. Okay, on page 210, here is some of the minutiae that we get when we analyze and discuss the Book of Mormon. The internal framework of the Book of Mormon is indeed complex. The events identified in the book cover a time span of approximately 2,600 years and occur in both the Old and the New Worlds. The book was written by more than 20 authors. It was edited and redacted by inspired editors and translated by a prophet some 1,400 years after the final Nephite prophet hid the gold plates. The work contains the words of both prophet and false prophet, Christ and Antichrist, hero and villain. Several languages have influenced the final product, including the Adamic, Egyptian, Hebrew, Reformed Egyptian, and English. The book contains many literary types, including historical narrative, poetic parallelism, biography, allegory, law code, judgment, speech, lamentation, blessing and cursing, prayer, epistle, psalm, and parable. It contains such symbolic figures as metaphor, simile, synecdoche, metonymy, implication, and personification. as in the Bible. Prophetic speech forms of various types appear throughout the Book of Mormon. These include the messenger formula, the proclamation formula, the woe oracle, the oath formula, revelation formula, and announcement formula. The final composition of the book is translated by Joseph Smith, is a product of several earlier sources, including the brass plates, the record of Lehi, the large plates of Nephi, the small plates of Nephi, the plates of Mormon, and the 24 gold plates of Ether. Although the book's goals and purposes are religious, the work treats many of the political, the social, the geographical, the historical, and the cultural elements that make up any civilization. Yet with all of its complexity, the internal consistency of the book is remarkable. Unlike the Bible, which contains literally hundreds of changes made by scribes and copyists, the Book of Mormon was transmitted directly from an ancient prophet, that is Moroni. Remember, he came back to Joseph Smith as a resurrected being. In fact, in his bedroom, 1823. Remember that? It was directly transmitted from an ancient prophet, Moroni, to a modern prophet, Joseph Smith, and therefore lacks such a large number of errors. Now, that's not to say that the Book of Mormon is completely free from errors or mistakes of humanity. But certainly Joseph Smith's statement concerning the Book of Mormon is appropriate here. I told the brethren that the Book of Mormon is the most correct of any book on earth. So what Perry does is he gives three different interpretations, three different ideas of the internal consistency and the complexity of the Book of Mormon. What the internal complexity shows, what the internal consistency shows with the Book of Mormon, is that we're dealing here with a genuine, ancient document. A grand, sweeping 500-page history that was basically produced within a semester's time, a typical normal college semester's time. 9 to 10 weeks. How would you like that for an assignment? Hugh Nibley gave some of his graduate students that assignment. He said, oh, by the way, at the end of this semester, I want you to have a 500-page research paper into me about a civilization and all of the aspects of the civilization. He goes into good detail on what that constitutes. That's his famous Book of Mormon challenge. And I'll do a video on that because it's really quite fun because it has a very powerful point. No one has produced a Book of Mormon since. Nothing like it. J.R.R. Tolkien, that's true, he produced a phenomenal trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. But he took 35 years. He visited dozens of libraries. We have the history of Joseph Smith. What he was doing in his youth is he was helping his father and mother farm. They were constantly moving around. He was clearing fields from rocks. That's where he got his incredible strength. He didn't have time to research. He didn't have any libraries available around him to research. What, in Palmyra or Manchester? There were, 55, 60 books in the library there? And absolutely none of them had anything to do with anything in the Book of Mormon. So, I believe the internal consistency, in and of itself, is the most powerful witness for the Book of Mormon. Next to the Spirit of God whispering to your soul that what you're reading is a true record of ancient people who met their demise because they became wicked. It's not what became of the Nephites that is the tragedy in the Book of Mormon. It's what they became. And it's why they disappeared. This is not a happy ever after ending fairy tale story. No, this is pretty somber, sober history. The argument that the Book of Mormon has no proof for itself, that argument is simply false.